Greetings, namaste, welcome to our weekly webinar based on this book by Swami Kriyananda ji, Affirmations for Self-Healing. Let's begin with a prayer. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, friend, beloved God, great masters, we humbly bow at thy feet. And I will read the prayer from Week 3. O Lord of joy, fill me with boundless happiness, for I am thy child, made in thy blissful image. As thou art joy, so also in my inner self am I. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Each week we read one of the sections from this beautiful book. This is something we do at our Ananda, India Monastery here in Kandala. Every morning we begin our workday with these readings and we do the affirmation together. These affirmations are very powerful when done in the way that we practice them. We'll begin with the reading from this week's topic, which is happiness. Happiness is an attitude of mind, born of the simple determination to be happy under all outward circumstances. It is the gold of our inner nature, buried beneath the mud of outward sense cravings. When you know that nothing outside you can affect you, no disappointment, no failure, no misunderstanding from others, then you will know that you have found true happiness. Resolve strongly to keep this flame burning ever in your heart. And now we will affirm together the week's affirmation on happiness. First out loudly, dynamically, then quietly, and then whispering, and then mentally. And then we'll conclude our webinar with a much more prolonged and deeper practice of the affirmation. So let's affirm together. I vow from today onwards, you can repeat after me, to be happy under every circumstance. I came from God's joy. I am joy. I vow from today onwards to be happy under every circumstance. I came from God's joy. I am joy. And now more deeply, more softly, I vow from today onwards to be happy under every circumstance. I came from God's joy. I am joy. And now mentally only, I vow from today onwards to be happy under every circumstance. I came from God's joy. I am joy. And then just mentally listen to this prayer. Again, O Lord of joy, fill me with boundless happiness, for I am thy child, made in thy blissful image. As thou art joy, so also in my inner self am I. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Hello friends, good evening. Thank you Devarshi ji for the affirmation. Today's affirmation on happiness, I would like to start with 3 stories. I hope we get some joy out of it and maybe we learn something. Let's see what these stories are. So firstly, this story happened like about 15 minutes ago, and I just entered into a studio, into a webinar room here at our monastery in Kandala, and my brother monks were very busy handling the technical aspects of it, of setting up the camera, setting up the microphones and everything. And I was in a playful mood, so I had just read the affirmation, I vow from today onwards to be happy under every circumstance. And so as soon as I entered the room, I saw them very busy in this, and I just loudly said, I vow from today onwards to be happy under every circumstance. I came from God's joy. I am joy. And we had a laugh. And one of my brother monks, he said, well, I have to break an unhappy news now, which is that the internet is not working. I said, oh, well, a good time to practice this affirmation now. And then I, of course, went outside the webinar room and I reflected on it that had I not been consciously tuning into this affirmation or tuning into the aspect that nothing outside me can affect me or my happiness, it would have been difficult for me to react the way I did. I would have otherwise been like, oh no, how are we going to do the webinar if the internet, oh, by the way, the internet is working fine now because you're able to see us. But I would have been all worried and how can we fix this or what can we do? But it's in little things where you can say our buttons get pushed, and sometimes we wonder like how is it that our buttons get pushed, or why are people always pushing on my buttons, and exactly at the place where it is not to be dealt with, because it's a sensitive spot and I don't like dealing with that uncomfortable feeling. Well, the truth is that Divine Mother and God make sure that that happens when we are not accepting of a situation as it is. We sometimes wonder, everything was fine, but that just one thing. But well, that is where the tests really come from, always. And I was once jokingly telling to a friend of mine about this thing about people having their emotions hurt or the buttons being pushed, and this friend of mine joked to me telling, well, the buttons get pushed because there are buttons to be pushed. In other words, if there was no reactive process, there wouldn't be any, if there was no emotion involved, or if there wasn't any sensitive spot, there wouldn't have been that reactive process. So little things during the week as we go, let's try to focus that where is our happiness being lost? Where do we lose that sense of inner peace and inner happiness? Then the second story, and this relates to once when I was a student and I was studying chartered accountancy, and I was nearing the completion, the final of it, and I was attending one of these classes on a topic called auditing and assurance. It has got nothing to do with today's class, but it has to do with the professor who was doing this class. And every now and then this professor would, especially after lunch hours when people would be sleepy, he would give some activity or just something to get people engaged. But it was not just some loose activity. He would try to share something which would help people. And one afternoon he just came and he told people, take the last page of your book. And everyone took their last page, and he said, write these words down, I'm dictating. And there were about 100 students, and he made us all write down, I am happy when blank. And he said, fill in that blank, I'll give you time. And I think he gave us, I don't know how long, maybe 2 minutes, maybe 5 minutes, but it was quite some time for us to think, I am happy when, or when am I happy? And I had already come on the spiritual path by now, and I was just beginning to wonder, well, I don't know if I want to place conditions on my happiness, but I was thinking hard that when will I be happy? And I just felt joyful enough even then, but I looked around and I saw all my friends were writing notes, and some people could even use an extra paper or something in this time. And I was like, oh my God, thank God this is not the exam question paper, otherwise I would have failed. But anyways, the drama ended, and the professor said, well, and he pointed to a few people and he said, can you please share a few things which you wrote? And so people shared, when I finish my chartered accountancy, or some shared when I get this job, or some shared when this situation becomes okay. And he said, well, with due respect, let's strike out everything which you wrote and strike out the when and add a period over there or a full stop. I am happy. Not to place conditions on why we are happy, what makes us happy. I am happy. That is as simple as it is. And the last story now I would like to share is, sometimes we, at least in my case, I find that my joy level, my happiness declines when I start taking myself too seriously. And if I'm taking myself too seriously, then it's all about me. And as we all know, friends, that the spiritual path is all about getting rid of the ego. And self-importance is something which has to do a lot with the ego sometimes. And when we start to take ourselves less seriously, that helps us a lot in being happier and happier. So now this story is when Swamiji was once, Swami Kriyananda ji, whom I refer to as Swamiji, he was once invited to a talk and where there was a panel of speakers. Many speakers had come from all over the world, some famous people. And basically the talk or this conference was about communities. Someone was wanting to build communities, and that's why he had invited Swamiji also, because Swamiji was one of the people, in fact one of the only person in that whole panel who had started a community. And after the conference got over, Swamiji invited everyone for a meal, and basically Swamiji was there and there was everyone. And amongst everyone else, Swamiji was not as popular in terms of outward ways, not as popular in the world as these people were. And they completely ignored Swamiji. And he thought how wonderful to be like, and he was the only one who knew what he was talking about in this whole crowd. But he just thought how wonderful this is to be absolutely not taken importantly. And he didn't have to push himself out, or he didn't have to prove a point over there. He just was happy and joyful in himself. And again, this first line of the reading I read, and I thought, how many of us or how many people in the world would really think in that way, in terms of happiness is an attitude of mind. And that kind of just, if you were to ask many people in the world and ask them, are they happy or are they not happy, or what will make them happy, most people will say, well, I'll be happy, like most people when we did in my professor's classes, that comes or that doesn't happen, or when this neighbor stops bothering me or this relative stops bothering me. But really true happiness lies inside, and we cannot really depend on outward circumstances. It is an attitude of mind. And to finish with, friends, how do we realize that it is an attitude of mind and it is something inside of us? We can't theorize it. Yes, these affirmations help, but we will find this more and more when we meditate. And if you have meditated, which I think most of us on watching this webinar, this video have, we'll find that there is a happiness which doesn't depend on outward circumstances. Like the reading says, no misunderstandings, no disappointments. They can't affect us if we know there is a happiness, there is true happiness, much, much deeper within us. With that, I'll pass it on to Devarshi ji.
Thank you, Vineet. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says in chapter 18, stanza 36, he says, in bliss alone does one achieve the end of all sorrow. In bliss alone. And he's talking about the bliss of our own nature. All the great masters, they've all taught that we came from joy. We are made from joy. Every atom of our body, all of our cells came from that divine joy. And all we have to do is try to tune into that and understand who and what we really are. So, most of us, unfortunately, we put conditions on that happiness. And those conditions are of two types. One is of time, and one is of a condition, or a place, in the sense of being in a place of having no physical pain, or no this, or no that. And the problem with those conditions is that when we say, I will be happy when such and such a thing happens, the when, you'll find that the future never comes into this moment. Tomorrow never comes, as an expression I love, because whenever we put a condition on our happiness in time, it's always in the future. And I think many of us have been through this time and time again, where we think, I will be happy when something else happens sometime in the future. And so what happens? That thing happens, it's fulfilled, but then we're thinking again, oh, but now I want this, I want that. A study was done once of people's income level. And they did a survey and they asked people, how much income would you need to be happy? And inevitably the people would say about 10 to 20% more than what they were currently making. No matter what their income level was, they always wanted just a little bit more, a little bit more. And this is the way that Maya delusion keeps us always seeking to find happiness outside of ourselves, in time. The other way, again, is we put a condition of when this pain goes away, or if this thing happens, then I will be happy. In this world of delusion, as long as our happiness depends on outward circumstances, for every pleasure there will be a pain, for every up there will be a down. And so we go through this roller coaster ride of ups and downs, ups and downs. The way out, as Vineet points out, is to really try to tune in to the bliss of our own nature, which is unconditional. When we tune in and experience that bliss, then we are happy, blissful even, under any circumstance, even under the most difficult circumstances possible. I can say this from having observed Swami Kriyananda over the years, but I can also say that in my own life, with the practice, especially of meditation, and just observation and introspection, that it is possible to find this joy inside of ourselves. All we have to do is to always be looking for it. Jesus Christ said, "Seek and ye shall find." And we are seeking things outside of ourselves, and yeah, we find those things. We're happy for a while, and then another disappointment comes, betrayal, illness, all these things, these ups and downs. But when you seek inside and seek that divine joy inside and are able to find it inside, you will find that it is the end of all sorrow, as Lord Krishna says. The way to do this simply is to practice meditation regularly. I have found that finding that joy inside is a little bit like a skill that's developed over time. And it's not just enough to meditate and do techniques, because the techniques of meditation are not meditation itself. True meditation is absorption in some aspect of God, and the ultimate aspect of God is divine bliss. Divine bliss, Swami Kriyananda once pointed out, he said that God is feeling, not reason, and that feeling is bliss, or divine joy. And so when we practice meditation, work with developing and tuning in to the feeling of the heart, because the heart is the receiving station on a radio, as Yogananda put it. It's where we receive and feel God's presence through intuition, through feeling. And I have found over the years that if I make a very regular daily practice of meditation, not just doing the techniques, but after the mind is calmed and the heart is calm enough, it doesn't have to be perfect, to sit in that stillness after techniques and try to feel sensitively in the heart center that divine feeling. The way to awaken the heart in that intuitive way is to start working with the feeling nature of the heart, practice devotion, practice love for God. That starts to awaken the higher feeling quality. And what happens is that, as Swami Kriyananda pointed out, he said love is the first manifestation of bliss. And you will find that if you practice divine love, he wasn't talking about human personal love, which again has the ups and downs, this nature of duality, but divine love, you'll find that if you practice devotion, it awakens this divine feeling quality, so that then when you get still in that calmness after the techniques of meditation, the heart's divine aspect has been awakened. And then if you regularly practice and just sensitively try to feel that divine joy there, sometimes it's a very pleasant sensation, a warm sensation that you can feel. But if you really very consciously look for joy every day, inside, in the heart, you will find that it is a skill that you can develop. And over time, as you develop this skill, you will find that as I have found, that even in the most difficult, intense moments in life, the most physically painful moments, the most emotionally painful moments, that if you just get calm enough and start looking. Again, it's a skill. It comes with practice. But if you practice it regularly during the ups and downs in life and during meditation, you will find that over time you can start to find that divine joy under all circumstances. This is probably the greatest skill that you can develop. People develop all kinds of skills in life for coping with things and for becoming successful. But if you can develop the skill of being happy and joyful under any circumstance, you will find that this is easily the greatest skill that you can develop, because then nothing can shake you after this. I would also recommend another practice, which is recommended by Paramhansa Yogananda. Read and memorize his poem, Samadhi, which is in his book, Autobiography of a Yogi. This poem, Samadhi, describes the state of divine bliss. And it's almost like an affirmation. One of the lines in that is, "From joy I came, for joy I live, in sacred joy I melt." If you repeat the lines of that poem over and over and over again, as a poem, as an intuitive understanding of our own nature, but also as an affirmation, you will find that divine joy is not outside of ourselves, it's not foreign to ourselves, it's who and what we are, we always were, we just forgot. From joy I came, for joy I live, in sacred joy I melt. Practice this every day, and you will find that this unconditional joy becomes much, much more easily and readily available to anyone, because it is our true nature. And now Vineet will close with more on the reading and repeating the affirmation again.
Thank you, Devarshi. So we'll do this affirmation now slightly longer, and first it'll be out loud, then in a normal voice, then whispering, then silently taking it deeply, and then silently offering it up to the superconscious mind. And I'll guide us through it, and let's go through the reading first. Happiness is an attitude of mind born of the simple determination to be happy under all outward circumstances. Happiness lies not in things, nor in outward attainments. It is the gold of our inner nature, buried beneath the mud of outward sense cravings. When you know that nothing outside you can affect you, no disappointment, no failure, no misunderstanding from others, then you will know that you have found true happiness. Resolve strongly to keep this flame burning ever in your heart. So we'll do each of these phases 3 times. You can repeat after me, first out loud. I vow from today onwards to be happy under every circumstance. I came from God's joy. I am joy. I vow from today onwards to be happy under every circumstance. I came from God's joy. I am joy. I vow from today onwards to be happy under every circumstance. I came from God's joy. I am joy. Now in a normal voice, absorbing these words deeply. I vow from today onwards to be happy under every circumstance. I came from God's joy. I am joy. I vow from today onwards to be happy under every circumstance. I came from God's joy. I am joy. I vow from today onwards to be happy under every circumstance. I came from God's joy. I am joy. Now in a whisper, taking it deep into the subconscious. I vow from today onwards to be happy under every circumstance. came from God's joy. I am joy. I vow from today onwards to be happy under every circumstance. I came from God's joy. I am joy. I vow from today onwards to be happy under every circumstance. I came from God's joy. I am joy. Now mentally taking it deeper, absorbing the meaning, I vow from today onwards to be happy under every circumstance. I came from God's joy. I am joy. I vow from today onwards to be happy under every circumstance. I came from God's joy. I am joy. I vow from today onwards to be happy under every circumstance. I came from God's joy. I am joy. Now mentally again focusing at the point between the eyebrows, offering these words up to the superconscious. I vow from today onwards to be happy under every circumstance. I came from God's joy. I am joy. I vow from today onwards to be happy under every circumstance. I came from God's joy. I am joy. I vow from today onwards to be happy under every circumstance. I came from God's joy. I am joy. Now mentally repeat after me this prayer. O Lord of joy, fill me with boundless happiness. For I am thy child, made in thy blissful image. As thou art joy, so also in my inner self am I. Om Shanti Shanti. Thank you friends for joining us this evening. We'll continue to do these affirmations every week the same time. Next week's affirmation will be on energy. But till we meet again, do these affirmations and do them whenever you get a chance, every day if you can. And that way this will just not be theory but practical experience, and that way we'll be able to draw more by sharing things together. We look forward to seeing you again next week. Thank you. Joy to you.